welcome back to Like I Was Saying with Velvet and Fee Baby. Two misguided hoes talking about whatever the fuck they feel like without interruption, like we were saying.
What's up, y'all?
It's a party.
I am weak. Every time, y'all. That's how she started. Apparently, that's part of our intro.
All the energy, giving it to you up front.
Well, it's your girl, Velvet.
And it's Fee Baby.
Hopefully, y'all are having a great week. If not, hopefully we'll bring, some excitement and stuff to your life.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of Like I Was Saying.
Oh, we were supposed to say that together? My bad.
I was looking at you to maybe say it, and you were like, nah, pass back.
My bad. Just kidding. Like I was saying.
You can't see it, but I'm going to do the little things with little kids. You shake their hands and go, hey.
In a circle?
Yeah. Boom.
You sound old. You know the name of the dance.
No, that's why I said young kids.
Young kids.
I can't be in that category no more.
Oh my God. Facts. Me either. I've been out that category. Long time. But thank you. And again, welcome, for all of the new listeners.
And returning.
Yes. Thank you so much. Please make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe. All of those wonderful things.
Tell your mama.
All of them. Your mama, your cousin, your auntie. If your children are old enough.
Yes. So, let's hop right on in.
All right. So, what are we talking about today?
So, there's been some interesting conversations that have been kind of going around, discussing. We even actually, I think, second podcast talked about ideal persons, whether that be mental, physical, what have you. Mm-hmm. There's been between Miss B. Simone.
Yes.
Has been something that's been come under a lot of scrutiny recently from her list. She recently discussed, pretty much from what I got from her, she was pretty much saying anything that you want from a man, you need to have.
Yes.
You want the banging body, you got to bring the banging body.
Mm-hmm.
You want the 6 figures, you need to bring 6 figures. You want somebody who's not dealing with trauma and bringing baggage, deal with your trauma, deal with your baggage. Mm-hmm. That's what I got from it. But a lot of people were tearing her down. Previously she kind of got into some hot water about kind of something similar to that.
Oh, with the 9 to 5 dude.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Where she says she wants an entrepreneur. She wants someone's lifestyle that's
similar to her.
Yeah, which makes sense. Yeah, which definitely makes sense, and it's people a preference, and you're entitled to that.
People just like to comment on stuff.
What I think is very interesting is that there is another personality who does something very similar, where they're kind of on the opposite side. They evaluate what people's wants and needs out of a relationship are and tell them if they feel as if it's unrealistic.
But isn't he a relationship expert or something?
Supposedly. That is my understanding. That is his profession.
By the way, we're talking about Kevin Samuels.
Yep. Kevin Samuels is where we're going to next. So what I find interesting is while, B. Simone says XYZ is what I want, there are women who go to Kevin Samuels, say I want XYZ, and he'll say why it's unrealistic or what have you. Something that I have. So first, what was your take from B. Simone's kind of?
I think she was speaking the truth. In relation to, like you said, we did go over, what we want. So someone that I would want doesn't have to be necessarily physically fit, but wanting to better themselves, just like I'm doing, right now. So not someone that's, eating out all the damn time and, won't eat vegetables or whatever. Like, it has to be similar. I'm not saying it has to be exact, but it has to be similar. And even if it's not similar now, that he is willing to work towards bettering himself. It can't just be we're total opposites, because that's not going to work. They used to say, opposites attract certain things, yes, but I don't think that's the case for long-term relationships. But again, that's just my, my perspective. So for the physically fit, the money, I think that really depends on the money piece. If you want, someone with 6, 7, 8, whatever figures, I don't know if you necessarily have to have those figures, but you can't also be someone working at McDonald's. So I think that, yes, what she was saying was true, but in a sense. But again, it can't be just, I want a dude that's, making 8 figures and I'm a cashier at Wendy's. one, you're not going to meet anyone making 8 figures at Wendy's. So I don't know how that's going to work. But you have to, again, I think it all has to do with being able to better yourself to, I'm using quotes, catch that person that you're wanting. You have to be in those circles. Again, what she's saying is true to a certain extent. In order to get an 8-figure person, they're not going to be in a circle with 4-figure people. They're more likely going to be in circles with maybe even 6, but 7, 8 and above. They're not going to be in circles. So how can you even get in that circle if you're not even close to it or aspiring to it? Like if you're, again, just working somewhere and that's all you aspire for, you're not going to catch that person or find that person. But just like we're doing, we're, exploring outside of just the normal work. We could possibly do that with, what we're doing. We may meet somebody in podcasting and that could be totally something new. They could be making 8 figures and, that could be something. So I don't know. What about you?
No, I think all of that goes into mindset, lifestyle. Those are things that are going to trend into a specific direction when it comes to who you're looking for.
Yeah.
When it comes to wanting someone, if I'm motivated, I want somebody motivated, that means it's someone who's working on their financial stability.
Yes.
Building a future.
Correct.
That is going to, longevity-wise, provide generational wealth. So those are all things that if I'm of one type of mindset, there's going to be a specific person who I'm going to be attracted to. And again, I don't understand why people are so berated for what their preferences are.
Because it's not the same preference of that specific person. That's all I got to say on that one. Yeah.
So with Kevin Samuels, I've listened now. Mind you, we could easily, a lot of things that social media are showing may not be, reflective of who he is as a whole with his relationship advice and his profession. But a lot of things that he is zeroed in on, it seems, being the type of energy that I see he has in it, could be pretty reflective of who he is. I've seen at least 3 different scenarios of women who've called in to talk to him. And he's given it, I'm kind of confused as to where he's trying to narrow and what he thinks is appropriate for a woman and what she should want. The first one that I saw from him, a woman had called in, and she was wanting like a 6-figure man, and most of these he's having over a phone. Like these aren't video calls that he has with these people.
Oh, he doesn't have video calls?
These aren't video calls. No, a lot of the ones that I'm seeing, they're call-ins. And so he'll ask them to describe themselves. He'll be like, rate yourself, but you can't use 7. So she'll be like, I'll say
I think he does have videos though.
So there's videos of he records himself while he's giving these critiques to people. He may have video calls, but a lot of the ones that I'm seeing that are airing on social media, they're not both ways. He's asking the woman of her physical attributes. It's not as if he can see it and he can describe it.
Okay, because I think I saw one where, if I'm thinking of the same person, which I think I am, he was actually on a video call with a girl, and he's the one that rated her.
Yes, that was one of the first times that I saw him.
Yeah, so that was a while ago. So I don't know if he switched it to just that. But once I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm good. So
yeah, but the first one, he pretty much criticized her for wanting a so many figure man, and she did not have so many figures, and she wasn't, aesthetically appealing. Then the second one was she was looking for a man. She made, good money, but she was looking for a man. She was looking for marriage. She had a child previously. And whomever she settles down with next, she would very much like to abstain from having sex prior to marriage. And he criticized her for that, essentially saying, you pretty much gave the pussy and got knocked up by somebody else. So why are you trying to, lock it up now? Ain't no man gonna want no pussy that he knows you done gave away and had a whole child from, but now you're gonna lock it down for him. And so he pretty much kind of shunned her for that. And the last one that I saw, she was like, I'm looking for a man who makes what I make. She made good money. She said, I'm independent. I'm hardworking. I provide for myself, X, Y, Z. And he goes, you just described a man for me. Why is a man going to want to,
So then I'm confused, because if you go back to the first one.
Right.
So the first one you said, how are you going to ask for 6 figures when you don't even make it, right?
Right.
And now this last one, you're saying you have those 6 figures and you want a man with 6 figures. However, that's described as a man. I'm confused now.
Right.
And I need more. I'm just, that don't make sense. I feel like, what's the word I'm looking for? Contradictory.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
I
He's
was hoping you
definitely
were going to come. I
contra-
thought you were
I
going to
was,
come with it.
I be trying to be on the same page sometimes. My brain kind of has a lag in it sometimes. That's the part that I'm kind of confused about myself
Mhm.
when it comes to what is, like, it sounds like any preference that a woman makes in general.
He criticizes?
He criticizes, or people in general, just like B. Simone was being criticized
Because she's a
for.
woman.
Yeah, so any preference that a woman vocalizes is very heavily scrutinized, and I just I don't quite understand it. And it would be interesting. I would like for B. Simone, because I actually saw this where someone was like B. Simone versus on a versus for with Kevin Samuels. I was like, I would be interested to hear what their two conversation would be. What he would say to her preferences and what she's looking for in a relationship, and if he feels like that's achievable, if that's something that she's going to be able to
achieve,
capture.
It would be interesting, but if you go based off the first conversation, yes. If you go off the last conversation that you said, no, because that's a man, apparently.
I'm just and sometimes I think whether or not he would be forthcoming with that information, I think he has very traditional old school values.
We can't get.
So I don't know if he would clash very well with what her list is.
No.
Because she's very much kind of a modern day woman. Like, I'm going to go get my own. I want to be able to, I don't have a problem being like a submissive person to my man when that situation is appropriate. And when you show me that that's something I can be with you.
Yeah.
I mean, because until then, you want me to be able to survive and be able to have for me. What do you think I've been doing all my life prior to you coming into existence? Do you think I've just been bullshitting? Like, how do you think I've been able to obtain and have my standard of living? I don't understand.
I wish I could answer it for you. But I'm not sure because he's saying too many different things. If he stuck to one thing, it'd be different. But I'm just curious, like, does he have a psychological degree, or how did he come into this? Is what I'm curious about. Like, what made him a professional in relation to relationships?
How do you feel about the way in which he delivers his messages to the people he speaks to?
Well, like I said, I watched that one video.
And that's pretty much the tone of the conversation.
And I haven't watched any past that point.
Okay.
So I don't think that it's right. Well, again, the video that I watched was probably a while ago. And that was when he was on video with someone. Again, if I'm speaking about the same person, when he was on video with someone and he was like, rate yourself. And she rated herself and he was like, well, I would probably give you like whatever number he said. I don't remember exactly, so I don't want to, misstate.
That was the your average at best.
Yes, or something of that nature. And I was okay. Well, that's his opinion. Someone may think that she's fucking 10. So opinion, that's fine, cool. But when like you said, well, why are you closing off your pussy for people when you've already given it to somebody? Well, that's her preference. Maybe it's probably because of that said relationship that maybe it was just sexual and she wants to find a deeper connection with someone outside of that. And it's not necessarily saying that she would never have sex with him. She said, I would prefer, right? Is what she said. So prefer and I will absolutely not have sex until marriage are two different things. I prefer. So once she gets to meet someone and they have that deeper connection, outside of the sexual, she may be like, I can trust this person, this is different than before. And so that's a different aspect. So I don't know.
So plot twist.
What?
He is not like a love personality consultant.
So what the fuck is he?
He is a male image consultant and does shopping and things of that nature.
So why is he talking about?
He specializes in male image consulting and then shopping and
male image consulting.
Yes.
But you're talking to females.
I would be very curious as to how those led into one another. I would be very curious.
So if he was just talking about their image and that's it, then that's different. But he's talking about a full relationship, like you can't expect this, blah, 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 then that is different. That's outside of your scope.
Yes.
That's outside. You need to stay within the box.
I'd be very curious as to how those two worlds met, clash, and how he is now almost like a pioneer in what he's doing right now.
Which is terrible. And I don't understand why these women are going to him. But to each is their own. But I would never.
I said, I would be curious. I haven't seen, again, I don't, social media will always provide you the worst and the unlikable pieces of individuals. So I'm very curious if there have been better conversations he has had with women that did not end. So
like that?
Yes. So that's my thoughts there. Those are my thoughts. I don't disagree with anything that B. Simone said. I definitely feel like she's entitled to have, if I'm bringing X, Y, Z, I don't think that should be a problem with me asking for LMNOP from you.
And I don't think it has to necessarily be exactly the same. So if I'm bringing in 100K, it doesn't necessarily mean that he has to bring in 100K. Of course, that would be great. But it could, be a range. It just, again, not working at a fast food restaurant as a cashier or something. Like, as a fry cook. If I'm making 100, I can't see myself with someone that way. It just doesn't,
Gotcha.
Because, again, per my preferences, I need a provider, a protector. Those are key things right there. And you're not, if I'm bringing in 100 and you're bringing in 25.
Yeah, there's going to be, that's all the way around in that, like I said, that's mindset, that's lifestyle. That's going to be a very difficult disconnect. Again, if that person, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you are aspiring for more and you're putting yourself in the position to do more and do better.
Yeah, that's your stepping stone.
And that's not saying stagnant. Stagnant is that word?
Yes, that's my word right there. Don't stay stagnant, baby. And that is, if you at this step right here, at the bottom step, and you McDonald's cashier, we need to be moving up. Even if it's at McDonald's, okay, cool. I don't know what's the bottom, so probably the fry cook maybe, or is it cashier? I don't know, fry cook. Then you got the cashier. Oh, you moved up a level.
Got you a shift leader after that.
Ooh, you shift leader, moved up a level. Baby, you manager.
You leaving the shifts, and then you managing.
Manager, hold on. You're moving up. Yeah, but if you just stay that fry cook, we're on different levels.
Yeah, for sure. I see that.
Aspirations is the word there. So, that's interesting. I don't understand how he became what he became. I really would like to know. I hope someone asked him, like, how did you go from image consultant for men, again,
specifically?
Yes. For men, but you're talking to women about relationships. The only thing I can think of, and that's just like, to come up with something, is that because he is a man consultant, women want to go to him because they
want to attract the men that he is molding.
Yes, is what I am. That's the thing in my head. If I just came up with that and then you come up with that, sir, I want my 15%.
So I want to know how he deals with his paying clientele then. His males that he consults. I wonder how he deals, if he has the same type of verbiage and energy with the people who pay him.
For an individual of that, the way that he speaks to the women, his conversation with men are totally different. So, his conversation is definitely different. Like, she didn't, he seems, again, I don't know this person personally, but he seems like the type, based upon the conversations, that he'll be like, that woman, she wasn't the best for you. You need someone that XYZ, XXYYZ. And for the woman, he's just like, bitch, you just don't. Yeah. Just stay single because you're maybe a 5. And matter of fact, you're a man. That's what
he literally said, go back to your husband. I said, what? Yeah, he's very ruthless.
Go back to, so she was married looking for a man?
I guess she was previously married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
I can't. Anyways.
That's the piece on that.
Oh, yes.
So we talked about Malcolm and Marie.
Yes, hopefully y'all enjoyed that conversation.
Yes,
Please let us know.
Yes, and there's been another movie that's come out since that has started a lot of conversations.
Y'all probably already know what we're gonna say. It's also, Black History Month, so Judas and the Black Messiah, and it was a lot. It was a lot. Even me knowing the story prior to watching it is different. Even though, it's not really watching the person, that it actually occurred to, is still different. Like learning the story, which I did not learn in school because, they don't teach those type of things. But learning it outside of school, I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. I never really, back in the day, unfortunately, a lot of things of this nature occurred. So, yeah.
So, also, like we did last time, if you have not seen it, this is total spoiler alert. So,
spoilers. Yes. Alert.
So go ahead and fast forward if you have not, or if you don't want to have anything that's, given away. But Daniel Kaluuya.
Yes. He played Fred Hampton.
Yes, he did. He did. So, you want to give us just a brief synopsis of the movie?
So Fred Hampton, Black Panther. He was the chairman of Black Panther in Chicago.
Yep.
And there was spy is not the right word. Informant. There we go. Informant by the name of Bill O'Neill,
also known as the actor himself.
Lakeith. And I love me some
Stanfield.
Lakeith.
Yes.
Sorry, yes. Lakeith Stanfield. But I love me some Lakeith. That was the actor, y'all. So don't be going sending him hate mail and stuff.
No.
He did superb. But anyways, so Bill O'Neill was an informant for the FBI. And he basically informed on the Black Panther Party. And the end result was death.
In short, Fred Hampton stuff, yes.
Yes. So that's a short version, but we'll go into, some other things. But that is a short version. I don't know where I should start.
So one thing that very much struck me, which you don't really find out till the end or unless you have context prior to watching it. So as you mentioned, he's the chairman of the Chicago chapter of the Black Panthers. He, throughout this movie, does so many phenomenal things, selfless things
for his community,
wanting to push, the agenda forward for them and be able to continue their mission. He was 21.
Yes.
All of 21.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's just because of everything he was doing. It's so hard to fathom someone being that young doing
doing all that. Yeah, because nowadays you wouldn't really.
Or also having context to Daniel Kaluuya's knowing he's not 21, so it felt like he was a little older. But even when I looked up Fred Hampton's photos afterwards, Fred Hampton looked like a grown man.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. He was literally out there, and that's a lot of people who are in the civil rights movements pushing for social justice. A lot of them start off very young.
Yes.
And are unfortunately murdered very young and early in their mission as well. Yes.
So, let's see. As she said, he was 21 when he was killed. So at the beginning, it's all about him being a revolutionary. And you see that throughout. Exactly. He says that a lot throughout. It's about him going through the community and, speaking to different groups. His whole thing, a lot of it had to deal with, what is the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh. I cannot think of the word. Oh my gosh, my brain is going blank, y'all.
My telepathy's not working right now.
And hers is not working, and it sucks. Uniting the Crowns, the Black Panthers, the Lords, and the Patriots. So those were all different groups within that Chicago area. So it was the well, of course, Black Panthers, and then the Lords,
which were a Hispanic group,
and then the Patriots were
which
the
were
white,
but they weren't. They were
like lower class,
yes,
white,
lower class white people.
Yes, and then the Crowns were another Black group, but
that followed
more so Martin Luther King Jr.'s initiative outside of. I don't know why my brain's going blank during this whole thing. I think it's just having this conversation.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Because I was thinking about it. I was like, man, we're about to talk about this movie. And it's just because I cried. Mm-hmm. I watched the movie twice, and I cried both times. Even though, again, I already knew it was going to happen. But just seeing it is just a whole other aspect. But his whole thing was trying to unite those four groups.
Creating a rainbow coalition.
Yes. And to me, I don't understand what the problem was in relation to that.
So, I mean, you saw in the beginning, so when they first recruited Bill O'Neill, Stanfield's character, what it started off, so he's introduced as like a petty car thief.
Yes. And
he gets arrested and he ends up in the FBI's lap pretty much.
Because he was using a fake FBI ID.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. In order to, initially initiate the stealing the cars. Mm-hmm. So they ask him these questions, which were pretty interesting. So it's a white FBI agent who's in the room with him in a holding, or like a questioning room. Mm-hmm. And he asks him, how did you feel when Martin Luther King was murdered? And he
didn't initially want to answer it, though.
Yeah. His face was like, I don't like he seemed very puzzled. He's like, I guess I was upset. I don't, Mm-hmm. And then he asked specifically, how did you feel when Malcolm X was murdered or when he died? I can't remember if he said murdered or died, because that verbiage that he will use is very important in how he tries to frame.
Yes. I think it was died.
But he said, I haven't really thought about it. It hasn't really crossed my mind. Mm-hmm. So essentially they use a member of whom, would be for the Black Party movement to use against them, a fellow black man, to infiltrate the system. Yes. He used that as leverage against him going to jail for impersonating a cop.
Which was 5 years, and then stealing the car was like, what, 16
or 18 months?
Yeah. So he would have been in there a bit. Yeah. Almost 7 years. So he was like, no, I'll betray everyone.
Pretty much. But you can tell from the beginning that Bill does not have a very strong connection, I would potentially say, to the movement, or his connection to kind of where systemically has placed African Americans in the country, because he then the FBI agent invites Bill to his home.
Roy Mitchell is his name, the FBI agent.
Roy Mitchell. Roy Mitchell invites Bill to his home. And there's at the same time, because this all did actually happen, Bill O'Neill had a interview that he did kind of airing everything out afterwards.
Which is stupid.
Very much so. But
I don't get it.
Bill pretty much stated, essentially, he never had a male role model. There was never anybody in his life that showed him XYZ or how to do XYZ. And Roy Mitchell, the FBI agent, became sort of like that for him. He started modeling what he felt like
yes, I get everything you're saying. Mm-hmm. I definitely think his whole thing had to do with money. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel that it had to do with the not having a connection with his people. I don't know what his background was. He definitely lived in the Black community. But I think he was just motivated by money, period. Because him stealing the car, that was going to get him money. I'm 99% sure he was going to sell it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't for him just to be joyriding in. Mm-hmm. So that was money. Mm-hmm. And then every time he would always ask, okay, if I get you real good information, or if I get you something, what will happen to me? What will I get? Mm-hmm. That was all about what he would get. So to me, that was a very selfish act. Mm-hmm. It had nothing to... Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it was just very selfish. So it's just, I'm trying to figure out the words that I want to say. in my words, and again, it's just my words. It doesn't necessarily mean everyone in the world. He betrayed his people for, at the end, I believe it said about $200,000 is what he got overall, plus a gas station.
Mm-hmm.
That was what he got, right? The keys to a gas station,
End, right.
and approximately about $200,000 to betray his people. That could have literally changed the game and how the world is today.
So you don't think that if he had more of someone like a Fred Hampton in his life coming up, like an OG essentially, that maybe his decisions would have been different, had a different impact on him to not be able, because it even felt like when he was teetering to, because that's when Roy Mitchell, when the first time he came to his house, at least in the movie, he drew parallels to the KKK, to the Black Panther movement.
Oh, I forgot, girl.
Which if I felt Bill was more connected to and had people in his life in that capacity, he would not have been so easily swayed. It seemed like later on Bill started understanding that it was more of what they were trying to feed to him versus the truth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they were specifically, trying to demonize the Black Panther Party to Bill.
And what this man said was that, so one thing that he said was that they rate. Oh no, this was the other guy. Sorry, I'm moving too forward because that was definitely one of the things he said. But at that scene when they were at Roy Mitchell's house, he said, "I am okay with equality, but you can't cheat your way to get there." And I'm intrigued with that statement, because how are you okay with equality, but how can someone cheat their way to equality? I am just very curious. How can you cheat your way to equality? If everyone's supposed to be equal, how can I cheat my way to get to equality that I'm already supposed to be at?
I mean, well, that's coming from a white man. So
that makes no motherfucking sense. When he said that, Bill should have said, huh? I don't understand. That don't make no sense. I literally played that back the first time I watched it. Like, did he really say that? It doesn't make sense. Like, a lot of the things that the FBI were saying to him didn't make sense. And so I don't know if he had some type of mental condition or what it was. And again, it could be, that he didn't have a connection or have a role model. It's just, I just don't see it. I just, even without a role model, those are still technically, dude, you're black.
But that's how you have people who supported Trump. They don't, they have different experiences that because that's what their experience is, they discount others' experiences. And so others aren't as real to them as theirs is.
But his experience was the same as theirs. The only difference is that he was getting arrested for a crime that he committed. But his experience, he still lived in the hood. He still lived in the area where all of this was occurring. So it's not like he grew up in a white neighborhood or he grew up not knowing black people in the struggle of being a black man. That wasn't there. It was that it just goes down to him being selfish. I mean,
that's where you have like Lil Wayne's of the world. Lil Wayne didn't come up in the most prosperous of areas.
True.
But he himself does not feel as if racial inequality and things of that nature are a reality just because at some point a white officer showed empathy to him and didn't let him die. So he believes police brutality. So in his eyes, police brutality, all the things that are going on currently in this world, for him aren't real. Again, because of his experience, he discounts what the large majority of people are experiencing. Because for Bill, his negative interactions with the police are things because he's causing them, not because he's being singled out in his perspective of it. Not like when you got beat the shit out of when the cops got a hold of your ass, and you was leaking from the top of your eye.
Yeah. So I feel like Because they didn't have to do that, though. They could have just arrested you.
Mm-hmm.
But they beat you.
Yep. So, so when the way they started to position, so obviously this movie is centered around taking down Fred Hampton.
Yes.
One of the first things that they did is they got these crazy $70 ice cream charges.
Oh my God, yeah.
They charged him with stealing
ice cream.
$70 worth of ice cream, and this was gonna hold a 3 to 5 year sentence for him,
which is crazy.
Yeah, 3 to 5 year sentence for him. So he was in jail awaiting for everything. They're going to see if there was going to be any type of acquittal for him. So he was released. And the time that he was in,
it was 2 to 5, jail, by the way. It was 2 to 5.
2 to 5. Okay. So while he was in, jail waiting to be released, their headquarters was blown up. This was while he was in one of the individuals in the Black Panther Party had walked into a corner store
because the police were there and harassing about 4 or 5 based on the movie, because I don't know how many it was, but based on the movie, about 4 or 5 black men. He then came in and was like, "What have these black men? What have they been doing?" And the police was like, "Get on, boy," or whatever word they used.
This was Jimmy. Right?
Yes.
This was Jimmy. Jimmy had walked in and had asked him what was going on, and at that point, that's when
shootout occurred, and one of the officers died based upon the transactions that happened after that. One of the officers died, and Jimmy was shot and was sent to the hospital. He was in the hospital for a while,
and while he was in the hospital, that's when all the cops came and were sitting outside of their Chicago chapter's headquarters.
And then another shootout occurred at the headquarters,
which ended in the cops blowing up pretty much the headquarters while Fred was behind bars. Now, mind you, right before Fred, I guess to backtrack a little bit, right before Fred went in, Fred was able to get the Patriots, the Lords, and the Crowns to unite under one. And then the moment he went in, which was honestly their plan to get when he was to go away, because he was the head of everything and he was so motivated behind it, everything fell apart.
Yes, literally.
You weren't seeing the Patriots, the Lord, the Crowns, any of them together anymore. Yeah. Just the fervor behind everything, the energy behind everything kind of dissipated while he was in.
Yes.
And so while he got, the headquarters got blown up while he was.
But the great thing, I'm not going to say the great thing, because that was still sad. I'm glad nobody, died, in there. They didn't blow it up while people were inside. There were people that got shot, and I'm quite sure some other officers got killed, again, based off the film. Mm-hmm. But the community afterwards came together. Mm-hmm. So that was something I think that showed, what he did in that community. Because I don't think that if you do truly negative things or whatever in the community, that people are going to come out and help. People legit came out. Even the Crowns came out. Mm-hmm. Some of the Crowns came out and helped basically repaint, rebuild, do all of that in the headquarters. Mm-hmm. So I think that showed to what he truly was doing in that community. Mm-hmm. So I think that was important to show. And I'm glad they did.
Mm-hmm. And then Fred was released from jail, pending them evaluating whether or not they were going to dismiss or acquit him of the charges.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was the same night.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when he came home, he found out that the woman that he was with, Deborah, was with child.
Yes, baby. She was with child. You hear me?
Yes, she was very much pregnant by the time that he came out. And there was a very moving scene afterwards. Was this at Jimmy's funeral? Because Jimmy ended up passing.
Oh, yeah, we didn't say that part.
Jimmy ended up dying after. So he was shot. He was transported to a hospital where he was around the clock, supervised by police officers.
And no one could come visit him, go in the room or anything.
Correct.
And then it is said that, he died, I guess the same night that Fred came out, or at least around there, because they got that phone call that night. And it is believed that he was killed.
Yes. Yes, and so Fred was speaking at his at his funeral, and it's just, he was very passionate, and he was pretty much saying like his life is for the movement.
Mm-hmm.
His essentially his body, his being belongs
to the movement.
And it's it was very emotional to watch the woman who was with child.
Mm-hmm. Hear that?
Yes, because essentially, while this is something that you fell in love with him for, you now struggle because you are carrying life within you that's shared with him, and you don't know what's going to happen next. You support it, but fear that that's what's going to take him away from you.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like that's what a lot of Black women go through in general. I think that was captured very well, what she potentially emotionally was going through at that time, especially carrying a Black man's son.
Yeah.
And a Black man who's not afraid to be in his skin and talk about what he wants for his people.
Yes. So basically, she supported him, but was terrified that it was going to take him away.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, he did. At a very young age. He didn't even get to see his child be born.
No.
Didn't even see any of that. Not one bit of it.
Mm-mm. And throughout the entire time, what's interesting is Bill keeps seeing all of these things transpire. He's starting to see more of the shadiness of the entire thing, that they don't just want Fred to be locked up, because there's at a point where essentially they say, because at a point they did not dismiss the charges. They did, pursue charges, and they were going to have Fred finish out the sentence that they put him away for. Mm-hmm. So a part of the movie was them trying to figure out, are we going to give, the Crowns had given money to Fred to essentially flee to another country.
Yes.
And it was at that point he was kind of at a crossroads. Do I go and serve my time? Do I flee? And he made his mind to serve his time. Mm-hmm. But that terrified the white men, because anybody who has ever gone to jail
don't want to go back
behind their mission. Mm-hmm. Almost becomes like
famous,
immoralized for it. Yes.
So he was saying, he'll probably write a book and become famous, and he was like, basically they don't want that, so they wanted to kill him.
Which they brought upon themselves, because he didn't have to go to jail. Y'all gave bullshit charges. So y'all were essentially putting him in the position y'all didn't want him to be in. So, I mean, at the end of the day, just say you wanted him dead. Like, I mean, that just is what it is. And that's what Bill started to slowly understand. Bill goes, well, he's going to jail. Okay, but draw me an outline of his home.
And he was like, y'all going to kill him? Yes.
And we're going to have you do it.
Yes, because you basically did. You were an accomplice to his murder. Mm-hmm. 100%. You drugged him, and then they came in. Oh, that part there. But what I did want to say before we get to that part was when the head FBI agent was talking about Black people. Mm-hmm. And was saying that Black people, all they do is rape, pillage, and conquer.
That was prior to him saying that. What question did he ask Roy Mitchell?
Oh, he asked, what would you do if your daughter brought home a young Black, what was the word he used?
Oh, no, he didn't.
He said young, though. He said,
he didn't say Black.
Negro, sorry. Young Negro male. Is I believe what he said, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so then Roy Mitchell was basically like, well, my child is very young. And he was like, but what would you do? And he was just like, I don't understand why you ask him this question. And I can't remember his exact answer when he actually did answer it.
Pretty much he was just like, that wouldn't happen.
Yes. So then that is when the head FBI said, the thing about Black people. And I just found that very interesting, because I am quite sure that is what white people did when they took over all the fucking places they took over. The one that we are sitting in currently, America. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When they went to Africa to take slaves, I'm, quite sure they did that there.
And you see that narrative even play out now. It's what white people do in order to subdue and to keep people of color as a whole from being able to advance. They paint these horrible and atrocious images of people of color to continue to demonize them, but to keep the white people in fear of them, to try to not allow them to advance. And it's just that because you see that now when people are talking about Mexicans coming into the States.
People are scared.
That's how they paint them, as rapists, as murderers, as drug dealers. So
quite sure there's a bunch of white people that are rapists, murderers, and other things as well.
Yeah.
So, and they're already in America.
So yeah, it just shows, the extent, and that what Black people fight for now is not by mistake. It's not for no reason. And for people who would discount movies like this, or don't give it, or say that, XYZ was so long ago. This was not that long ago.
And so it's crazy. I guess it's a part of it, but also a side note. Is so, I don't know if y'all know, because I don't know if I mentioned this. I have a 10-year-old son. And so we were talking about, Black History Month, etc. And he had said something similar to that. That was like 70 years ago. We're talking about, I think we were talking about nooses and stuff. He had to do a report on something, but I believe it was dealing with nooses and things of that nature and hangings and, what happened. And he was like, well, that was like 70 years ago. And I was like, Jonathan. I was like, that doesn't, just because it happened that long ago, doesn't, like,
I mean, that's within your elder's lifetime.
That is literally people still living today.
Yes.
And even if it wasn't, that's still something that happened. It doesn't mean that it's not occurring now. We may just not know about it. I'm not saying people out there are getting news. Unfortunately, hopefully not. But we don't know that. And it's like, I was like, you can't just say, oh, well, that was a while ago. You're just like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, you're discounting. You're taking away the severity, or you're not giving. I mean, he was assassinated in 1969.
Yes.
That was the same year my mother was born.
My
grandmother was a full-fledged woman
at that time.
My great-grandmother became a grandmother
at that time.
So these are all people. If you think about your grandparents, great-grandparents, you think about how stubborn and how certain ways they're stuck in. There are people from that time frame who still currently exist, who still harbor those same mindsets, who are passing that on to current generations.
Yes.
So,
and it's just a continuous process,
But I think that's the part. That's what the intention of saying it so long ago is, to distance ourselves from it, to where we don't have to acknowledge it and deal with it, because that wasn't that long ago at all.
It's not.
That was very
even
much
if you
recent.
said it happened in the 1700s, bitch, it still happened. So, and it's still things that could occur today. So regardless of how you put it, I don't care if it happened a month ago or happened several hundred years ago. It is something that occurred, and it's still things, and people are still alive, especially dealing with, this specific, topic that we're talking about, that went through that. They were probably out in these streets talking about, kill those Negroes. That, again, as you state, are teaching their children, and those children, depending upon their mindset, is either going to accept it and go the same route, or there are some that's like, no, I don't agree with it. But there are a lot that still hold on to, as you said, all of those feelings. And then they continuously just pass it on. Like they pass on wealth. They pass on the knowledge of hatred. And that's what he was talking about, the KKK and Black Panther, was they sow hate. And I was like, I don't remember that part. I don't remember that part.
One of the things that I found interesting, and we had actually paused and looked into it, for the amount of time that Fred was in jail, he had a lot of interactions with the officers that were in the prison. But there was a specific scene where there was a man shirtless, handcuffed to a chair in the middle of a dining hall.
Not eating.
No, he was handcuffed, not eating, no shirt on. You could tell visibly he had taken a beating. His face was bloodied, and he had something carved in his chest.
Yes.
And we had to pause it to see what it was, first of all. But after looking at what was carved in his chest, which was still very fresh wounds, was rabble rouser. And with looking that up, it's a person who speaks with the intention of inflaming the emotions of a crowd of people, typically for political reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So if Fred had context to what that meant in the time, which I'm pretty sure that would have been something that was
known back
then, Fred would have looked, of course, being a black man in the incarcerated period, that's already a target on your back.
Mm-hmm.
But to see that's how they were dealing with men in that system at that time, you know, that took a lot for him to continue to push his mission.
Agenda,
you know, even being incarcerated as well. Because they were watching him like a hawk.
100%.
Any notes he sent out?
Yes, and he was trying to be sneaky, but they caught that last note. I don't know if they ever caught the beginning ones, but I don't think so because you know she was getting them. Mm-hmm. His girlfriend was getting them, but the last one, they caught, and the FBI took like photographs and stuff of it, copied it. Mm-hmm. So I definitely it's something else. That movie was there was a whole thing. I'm trying to make sure we didn't miss anything. When Jake.
It was a very so Jake. So once Jimmy died, Jake was someone who was very close to Jimmy. They kind of in the beginning of the movie they show them together in the classes, learning about the Black Panther movement, what the agenda is, what their means are to, you know, get these things accomplished. And Jake just seems like this very innocent, you know, kind-hearted, very knowledgeable, smart person. Yeah. And when Jimmy died, it really took a toll on Jake.
Yes.
It really took a toll on Jake. And unfortunately, Jake ended up dying. He had gunfire with a police officer. He killed at least one officer.
I think he killed a couple.
Okay. And he ended up dying in that gunfire, essentially. And Fred visited Jake's mother.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that really broke my heart was she said, they're going to make my baby out to be a cold-blooded killer.
And that's not all that he is.
She said that he was, but that's not all he was. That's not his story. And it's just to see what being in that space can do to you. Yeah. It's not something that you can take very lightly, and you have to constantly be checking in with yourself, because those are, I mean, I could never, as a white woman, I could never understand what that's like, and to deal with that on an everyday basis, and to see people you love being lost to it.
And you want to support them, but you ultimately know that the ending could end, you know, the way that it did in the movie. You know, they could die. So it's like, support them. However, it's like, well, that's my baby. I can't even say that if my son was, you know, older and he was like, you know, Mommy, I want to be a part of blah, 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 like how I would feel about it. I don't know. Like I feel like I would be proud because he has found something that he is really invested in, and, you know, the equality, etc. of his people. And I would be proud, but at the same moment, I'd be like, my child could die because of this. Even though, you know, your child can die, period. But now it's like heightened. Like, I know that this is something that, you know, before, you know, we'll say 30%, you know, 30% chance that, you know, he or she will die before you. But being in that type of group or party, and, you know, what they were going for and how, you know, the government was at that time, your chances went up to like 90%.
I mean, even current day, it's still like that.
Yes.
Even current day, it is that.
I wouldn't know what to do. Like, again, I would be happy that he's found something, but at the same point, like, my baby.
Yeah, that's what I felt like when Deborah was watching him
talk,
at Jimmy's funeral. Like, I very much support, like, one, I hold much value in you as a black man, and that scares me. One, as a black man that I love, that I can lose you just for you being that.
Yes.
And then you being the chairman,
the head
of this party that they want to dismantle.
Yes.
And you are so passionate about it.
And he said, I'll give my life for it.
Scares her even more.
Yes. And I think it was also the conversation that they had when they were in the room and he was reading her diary or whatever. And she was like, you know, why are you reading it? He said on there, it was like, am I a bad motherfucker or am I a bad mother? And I think that started the conversation as well about, you know, what she was feeling, you know, towards him, you know, being in jail and now him out, and him possibly
going back.
It was a lot of those, and then he was also talking about I may not even be here for my son, and to be a father, especially because you're having a boy. With any child, a man is proud, but definitely a boy.
Mm-hmm.
It's your firstborn.
Mm-hmm.
Those are, again, I can't speak. My firstborn is a boy, but I'm not a man, so I can say from my perspective, I wanted a boy.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a man wanting a boy, which most men do, like, that's something you want to be able to teach him how to become a man. You want to be there to teach them, whatever it is that you've learned in your lifestyle. And then him realizing, I'm not even going to fucking be there for the first 2 to 5 years of his life.
Right. Because he was facing that jail time.
Yes.
That prison time.
Exactly. And so I don't even know how long he was in there. Probably like a couple months, right?
Right.
She was originally just pregnant, and then probably like...
I want to say she was maybe 5 months along. She was cute and round. Because when...
I'm trying to remember, because I think they said she had the baby
2 weeks after.
2 weeks after he was killed.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she wasn't... So I'm going to say... maybe like 7 months.
The time frame is a little, because I don't know how long after he was released while they were evaluating if they were going to dismiss everything.
True.
And then when he was killed, what that time frame looked like.
Yeah.
It sounds like it happened pretty fast, because it's like as soon as once Hoover, which was the head, which we have all these things named after in this world, but Hoover was the head of the FBI, when he pretty much stated him going back to prison is not something that we want. Their actions were very much immediate.
Yes, because they knew that it had to be handled.
Yes.
And they were also, I forgot, they were showing the pictures of the other chairmen that they had killed. Mm-hmm. And we're like, basically, this is what we want.
There was just so much that was shown that was orchestrated by the FBI to turn people against one another. They had informants. Bill O'Neill was not the only informant.
Yes, it was George Sam. He was the one that came from Connecticut to there, and he went to different Black Panther organizations, their headquarters, so that the FBI could get warrants, because now they're harboring a fugitive.
Yes.
And I was like, that is crazy.
Had innocent people being killed because he was scapegoating other people as informants.
Yes, and they basically, like, what they say, burned them, was it? Or put acid on, boil water, there you go.
Yeah, they poured boiling water on him. And
that's crazy.
if I'm not mistaken, if I do recall, I think he was castrated as well.
Yes.
They cut off his man parts. Yes. Like a completely innocent man.
Yep, but because of George Sam and him being an informant, he had to blame somebody else. And so that's how that person died. And it's just crazy. Like, I just can't even. I wonder if George Sam's alive. I didn't even look that up. Like, after this movie came out, like, is he still alive now to deal with, what they're saying occurred? If those are the real names, because, sometimes they use different names. But I wonder if that is the case. Like, if he's still alive and is seeing this movie and it's like, oh, shit. I don't know. It was just a lot. I'm trying to think. There is one thing that I do want to talk about, and I want to get your opinion on it. So Fred had said at the beginning when they were in the class, war is politics with bloodshed, and politics is war without bloodshed. You agree?
Absolutely. I mean, because there's an agenda that's systematically being pushed with politics. And we've seen it time and time again with districting, with housing, with economics, with education. These are wars that are being put out against Black people, that because they hold these positions of power, until there are more Black people able to be in those positions, they're going to continue to wage war on drugs.
Yes, that was huge.
For mass incarceration. That, all of that specifically is targeting a group of people. There was bloodshed in it, but it's a war specifically targeted to a group of people. and it's taking them out, but without having to have a physical war with them. There's no blood being, per se shed over it.
Yeah. Which I agree, like even the wars that we have, with the Middle East, etc., it's politics because they're fighting over something.
Like it's just like white collar crime. They inflict way more pain upon people because they're dealing with their financial security, usually annihilating people's financials that they have either in the stocks or in savings. And those crimes are way worse than the drug crimes that people want to peddle on people.
But you get less time.
Absolutely less time, if any.
That's why it's called white collar.
Absolutely. There you go.
That's why it's called that. Yes. I just, when that was on the board, I was like, that is right there. There it is. That is it. He said it right there in that just one little sentence. But I don't know. It was just a lot.
Something that was interesting was they at the very end they showed the so again, as we mentioned, this circles around a documentary that Bill O'Neill does after at some point in his life he decided to come out and tell people what he went through as an informant,
which I don't get.
And in it they asked him, because he has children, or at least a child, a son, and they asked him, like, how would you explain this to him? What would you say? And he said, one line that stood out above all for me was, I was part of the struggle. That just was, I'm just so insanely curious. I mean, mind you, something had to resonate either what his backlash was, because he committed suicide right afterwards.
Yeah. Once it came out, he committed suicide.
Immediately afterwards. But he's found...
In 1990.
He seemed so convicted in his purpose. He sounded very, very self-assured as to what he was doing and why he was doing it.
But you are a part of the struggle. And I wish, and I may I'm like 85% sure I'm probably going to go watch that if I can find it. I want to know if they asked him, what struggle? Like, what are you saying? What struggle are you a part of? Because I'm trying to understand it. Yes, you were a black man. So yes, you had that struggle, but you literally, the effects of what you did is what started this. You stole a car. You got arrested. You chose not to go to jail for the crime that you specifically committed. So you turned on these people that did nothing for you. They treated you as one of them. They, helped you. You did what you did. You should have served your time. But you chose not to. So I don't understand the struggle that you're stating you were in. That is the part. And that I really want to know if they asked him that question. I didn't watch, the documentary. I really would love to know if they asked him that and what he responded.
I think him thinking he was just present for it makes him a part of the struggle, which doesn't by any means, because the motivation behind while you're all there,
two separate things,
is completely different.
Yeah,
because they brought you in, they trusted you, they gave to you, they did so much for him, and it really fucked with me that essentially how they were able to kill Fred was that they gave Bill a substance to put into Fred's drink. And when Bill understood that they weren't going to stop until he died, there seemed to be a demeanor shift in Bill. He was very, 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 very much emotional the entire time. Like, his eyes were watery. He was crying the entire night leading up to Fred's death.
Because I think he really did have a connection. But, again, as you said, it's self. So that is because where it went.
That same night when he realized that it was going to lead to him having to die, Roy Mitchell was no longer saying, this is the jail time that you have if you don't do this. Roy then reminded him of the informant who wasn't an informant, what the Black Panther Party did to someone who they thought was an informant.
Yeah.
And if they found out that Bill was, what would happen to him.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's all about self-preservation, and it's linked to the
100%.
selfishness
Yes.
that you were mentioning. Like, sir, at that point, you just need to go ahead and take your L. You need to take your L however it's coming, because he doesn't deserve to die
because of that.
Because you don't have loyalty to your people.
The one thing that I think is he's probably thinking, well, if I'm not doing it, someone else would. So why should I die? Is the only thing I can think of in his mindset is, well, I've already gone this far. If I don't do it, he's going to get someone else to do it, and then I'm going to die regardless. I've already gone this far, so why don't I just continue? So that's the only thing I can think of that went through his brain of why he should do it. It was still selfish. His whole thing was just selfish.
Mm-hmm.
You should have took those 5 years because that was a crime that you committed. They didn't commit any crimes. You literally had several people shot that night. It wasn't just Fred that died. There was another gentleman that was at the door. I believe his name was Mark. That was, in the video. In the movie, he was sitting at the door with I think it was a shotgun or some type of gun. I can't remember exactly. But he was sitting in front of the door, and then the people shot through the door and then, broke the door down. But he died that night, and he wasn't even in that chapter. He was visiting from a different chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And he died, and then they literally shot almost everyone in there. Like, shot a lot of people. I think one was the lady that was just the freaking receptionist.
Mm-hmm. The most powerful point at the very end, there were two. When Deborah realized that the house was being raided, she literally used her body to shield Fred.
And she's pregnant.
And she was trying so hard to wake him and realize that he wasn't. And at this point, the agents were saying, if you are in there and if you're alive and you come out now, or we're shooting you dead.
Yes, and they started shooting, and then they stopped. Yeah.
She had to. You saw her reckoning with herself for a moment. Mm-hmm. Do I stay here with him, or do I walk out?
And
she walks out.
She had to choose life because she had a child.
And they pan to her. The camera is right in front of her face, and you see in the background his bedroom that she just left. Mm-hmm. And her eyes are just so vacant because you can tell there's an anticipation for her to hear the sounds that are going to take his life.
Yeah. And they say, again, I know if that's what they say in real, what happened in real life, but they basically like, oh, he's still alive. And then I think it was like 2 or 3 shots that was fired into him. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, no more. And I was like, I couldn't even imagine hearing that. Like, you seeing it again is one thing, but also hearing it and not seeing it.
Knowing it's
going to happen.
Yes. Knowing you're standing there in silence and knowing something is about to happen.
I just couldn't. That's the part that I cried like real hard on. I just was like, I don't know what I would have did. Mm-hmm. I feel like I would have done the same thing that she did because, again, she was pregnant. If she wasn't, I think she would have stayed. Mm-hmm. I don't know that for sure, of course, but I definitely think that if she wasn't pregnant, she probably would have stayed, with him. But because she was, and she was bringing another life, into this world.
His legacy, essentially.
Exactly, his legacy. She was like, I had to choose something other than that, which I 100% get. Because once you become a mother, whether the child is born or still in your stomach, your mindset changes. It's different. Mm-hmm. And so that part there, I cried so bad each time. I tried to hold it in, but it just didn't work. Because I just was like, it's crazy. I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about? There's one thing else I want to talk about. But anything else you want to talk about this?
I do just have a general question. Not specifically, if you have something specifically about the movie.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning when Bill was taken, do you remember what he said was scarier than a gun?
A badge.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that or?
100%. Because you don't know, with a gun, you know what's coming from the gun.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
With a badge, you have no idea what's going to happen once you see that badge.
Because you don't know who that person is that has the badge.
Exactly. Or you could know what's going to happen on the other end of that badge,
Mhm.
but you just don't know what means you're going to come to.
Yeah.
A lot of Black people specifically have fears of any type of interaction with a police officer is
Mhm.
going to be life or death for them.
Yeah.
And most people just don't know. I'm probably going to die, but I just don't know at what point they're going to do it. Are they going to do it here in front of everybody? Is it going to happen when I get taken back to jail?
Mhm.
Is I'm going to get into an altercation, or is someone going to fuck me up? And like,
Yeah.
there's just it's an endless type of possibilities that run
through your head. So now you're like, oh shit. But a gun, if someone pull out a gun on you, either it's a stick up, you give them your shit,
Mhm.
you'll probably be able to live. Some still may shoot you because that's what they want to do. But if it's a gun and they're pointing at you, well, shit, I'm about to die or not die.
Mhm.
But with a badge, like you said, there's so many endless possibilities, and it's unfortunate that that's the way that you're. I don't really know if I want to say taught, but what you grow up with, like in the neighborhoods that you live in. I can definitely say, up to a certain point, I definitely felt that same way. To this day, I can't say that I don't still feel it, but it's, again, like you said, I'm not gonna say with Lil Wayne because it's different. I still can, recognize what's happening to majority of the population of the minorities when dealing with police or any type of person that has a badge in that nature. But I used to work for the police department, so I know firsthand there are some wonderful officers, and there are some not so good ones. And that's with me working there, just talking with them, things of that nature. You can tell that some of them have a certain mindset, and it's not a positive one. And so you can tell that. And then there's some that believe that some black people are good, but the majority are not. So they were like, oh, you're a cool black person. And I would just look like,
That's a microaggression.
Thank you, I think. But there are a lot of cool black people. Just because they're black and tall and buff doesn't mean that that is an aggressive black man. But that is how they see them. And just like, I can't remember who said it or if it was in a movie, but they're basically the biggest gang in the world. What movie was it?
That I don't know. I ain't got that answer for you.
I can't remember, but it definitely wasn't a movie. But they're literally the biggest gang in the world. And they have the most support.
Yeah, they have a lot of protection.
Yes.
A lot of privileges.
Above, the most known gangs are the Bloods and the Crips, but that's nothing compared to that one. But I just thought that was interesting when he said that. I was like, oh shit, he right.
So what are your thoughts? How do you feel about this specific type of movie being the content that's created and being put out for essentially consumption for black people versus how white people are able to go watch comedies, romantic films, action, superhero, and see themselves represented in almost every single genre. And then it seems there are a lot of storytelling movies that come out
for
black people. Talk a lot. I've heard essentially not always wanting to see, always having to see your struggle every time that you look at the TV, or feel the quote unquote like the burden of it every time that you watch a movie, or that's really the only way that you see yourself depicted on TV.
Well, I wouldn't say the only way, but there are a lot of movies, so it may be probably about 50% or more. So the thing is, I like those type of movies because I think the history that's taught in America's history is not is not there. They only teach, the certain things. So you always hear about the same people, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr.,
Just again the palatable Black
yes.
people.
So that's what they teach, and that's not all of American history. You have the different people. So like, Fred Hampton, that's someone that thought differently than Martin Luther King. You had Malcolm X. They don't teach that in school either. They don't teach a lot of things in school. So I like these because it's teaching, especially nowadays, that a lot of people don't read, unfortunately, which is terrible. But a lot of people don't read. What they do is watch YouTube, they watch movies. So it gives them the information, which may in turn make them go read. Like, oh, well, that was interesting. Of course, in a movie, they're not going to tell everything, and they may change things so it's more interesting for you. But of course, the main points, would be fact. But that may take them to go read different things about their history. And so I think that's important. I do believe that we do have a lot of movies out that usually deals with this or slavery or, Jim Crow laws and stuff like that. So again, I am for it, but I believe there are other movies that show us as powerful beings. So I think as long as we have, a balance between it, it's okay. But I don't think that we should stop showing what history truly was. And again, it just not being those 5-10 people that they teach in school. So that's my thought. But there are some people that are like, I just hate watching those movies because they just make it seem this way, and we need to get away from that. But the thing is, in order to get away from something, you have to know your history. If you don't know it, then what happens?
You repeat it.
Exactly. So that's the important part, is not to repeat what has previously happened. And in order to do that, you need to know it, you need to learn from it, and you need to explore it. Yeah, so that's just my opinion. Is that the question you wanted to ask?
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure just some of the things that I've been kind of hearing
people say.
Yeah. And I was just curious. I mean, I think it's very, very, very much value added to it. But again, I can't speak from someone's who your skin is who you're seeing on that screen. Because that's your history that you're specifically seeing. I can pick and choose, and so it doesn't necessarily would have the same impact
on your life.
Yeah. Not necessarily impact, but like it's just not seeing myself represented on that screen. That's what I'm dealing with even current day.
Yeah.
So it's just different. I think it's very much value added because just like you said, people, and while it's not Black people's responsibility to educate white people, it does bring things to white people's attention, and they would be much more palatable to watch something like that than to go find the information themselves, and then from there,
maybe find the information.
Yeah. So I think it's value added. Again, it's not Black people's responsibility to teach white people, but
it always ends up being.
That is what it ends up being.
Yeah.
I mean, to be truthful, there was a lot that was in that movie that I did not know. Yeah. So it was very value added for me to watch it. I appreciated the movie very much. Yeah. So it's just
sorry guys, we definitely talked about that a lot. But like we said, value added. If y'all watched it, let us know what y'all thought and your thoughts on it, regardless of your ethnicity. Because your point of view could be different than mine or Fee's. So, just let us know. Comment and let us know what you think.
Absolutely. Because ultimately, everybody together is what's going to change the trajectory of where we
go.
He
was trying to do, is bring everyone together.
Exactly.
The white, the Hispanic, the Black, Asian, all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't get better for any of us, but it's not for all of us. Like we have to do something together.
That's only if your mindset is set that way.
Absolutely.
But I'm not gonna say a lot of people, but there are a few people that mindset is just set on not that. But I also think that as Black people, we always go to, I don't know if offend is the right word that I'm looking for, but what is the word? I can't think of the word. So we're going to say offend. for other ethnicities. So whatever they're going through, we're always there for them.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is it's not the same when we're going through things.
It's not reciprocated by
At
us.
all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was having a conversation with someone about that specifically. And, you know, they brought up a point is, again, that we go and, you know, just like Black Lives Matter movement or, you know, just Black Lives Matter, when we're out there, you see a lot of Black people. You see, you know, little speckles of other people. But if it was, you know, for the LGBTQ community, there are billions of different people out there. There are, you know, if you see for, I'm trying to think, for just say even the rainforest or some shit, Black people are out there. You see us in different communities helping with those different things. However, like you said, we don't get it reciprocated. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to step back from us doing that in order to focus on ourselves. Because we do a lot for these other groups, these other people, but maybe that energy needs to be focused on ourselves in order to better our own community, and then we can go out into the world and help. But again, that's just my opinion. That's a whole other topic, and yeah. That's just a lot, but yeah.
Yes. Take a
breath. Everybody breathe in, breathe out.
Smell the flowers. Blow out the candles.
Yes, blow out candles.
Yes. So, last couple episodes, we definitely wanted to make sure. I don't think there's anything else really coming up. There's definitely the energy is going to shift based on where we're at and what's going on. I know last one was pretty deep. This one's pretty much mirroring that as well. Yeah.
But it was just because the movies, so the different type of movies that come out. So.
We're gonna fluctuate from time to time. Sometimes we're just gonna be reckless and
talk about shit. Talk about the world and what's going on.
And then other times, you know, we get, you know, serious and we talk about, you know, what's going on.
Exactly.
So I think that's a good place to stop for today and kind of.
It was a lot.
wrap it on up.
Yeah.
You know.
So, y'all, again, I am Velvet.
It's your girl, B Baby.
And thank you so much for tuning in to Like I Was Saying podcast. Please make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell everyone in your family, all your friends, even people you don't like. You know, because we're trying to make it out here. Damn. Like, you know what I'm saying? So again, just remember each of you are beautiful and to never stay what? Stagnant in your life.
And set each day with new intention. Life is tough, my dear, but so are you.
Yes, you are. Everyone have a great week. Bye.
Woo!
We just doing a woo? That's it?
Woo!